All right, folks, we're going to dip into this press conference that the FBI is holding in West Bloomfield, Michigan, on that guy who drove a car in there under the name of Islam.
About the assailant. However, because we are only 30 hours into this active investigation, it would be irresponsible for me to speculate about his motive at this time. Our team has been working around the clock to ensure that we remain focused on providing confirmed facts about this investigation rather than uncorroborated speculation. The FBI continues to process the evidence we've collected from the temple, the vehicle, and surrounding locations. At this time, there are no new known threats to the community, and the FBI has no indications that this attack was connected to the shooting at Old Dominion University in Norfolk, Virginia. The FBI has forensically confirmed that the assailant responsible for carrying out this attack was Ayman Mohammed Ghazali, age 41, from Dearborn Heights, Michigan. He has no previous criminal history and no registered weapons. He also has never been the subject of an FBI investigation. As for the preliminary timeline of yesterday's events, here's what I can provide. At approximately 9:58 a.m., Ghazali drove his gray Ford F-150 into the parking lot of Temple, Israel. From approximately 10 a.m. to 12:15 p.m., Ghazali remained parked in his vehicle in the parking lot. No other persons or vehicles were observed associating with him. At approximately 12:15 p.m., Ghazali starts driving through the parking lot, and at approximately 12:19 p.m., Ghazali drives his vehicle into door 5 on the southeast corner of the building, hitting a security guard on his way in. At approximately 12:20, Ghazali's vehicle gets jammed between hallway walls, and he begins firing through the windshield of his vehicle. Ghazali and the first security officer engage in a gunfight through the rear window of Ghazali's vehicle. And at this point, Ghazali is unable to extract himself due to the vehicle being jammed in the hallway. At approximately 12:22 p.m., a second security officer engages Ghazali in a gunfight from the front of the vehicle. And soon thereafter, Ghazali's vehicle, his engine compartment, catches on fire, and at some point during the gunfight, Ghazali suffers a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. In the bed of the truck, we found large quantities of commercial-grade fireworks and several jugs of flammable liquid we believe to be gasoline, some of which has been consumed in the fire. Again, I'd like to commend the teachers and the staff who successfully evacuated the children during this attack. We realize this is a traumatic event for everyone. And as a result, we have set up the Family Assistance Center to provide victim services, support, and resources here at the J Detroit for any individuals affected by this tragedy. For those looking to recover their personal items that were left at Temple, Israel during this attack, you and your family can recover your items here at the Family Assistance Center at the old fitness area of the J throughout the weekend. For the public, I continue to ask everyone and anyone, if you have any additional information about the subject or this incident, to submit a digital media tip at www.fbi.gov/West Bloomfield attack, or to call our tip line at 1-800-CALL-FBI. We ask that you continue to provide any information that you deem helpful, no matter how small you think it is. Additionally, if you or someone you know, a family member, a coworker, or a friend, is exhibiting concerning behavior or making threats towards themselves or others, please call your local police department or the FBI, once again, at 1-800-CALL-FBI.
That's the FBI in West Bloomfield, Michigan. She's not going to speculate on the guy named Muhammad from Dearborn, Michigan, on the motive, but I will. I mean, you know what? Let's just talk about some stuff here. Let's zoom out. Let's talk about, I think, one of the most fundamental things is the naturalization process, and more importantly, in America, the denaturalization process. And why on God's green earth was the guy, the naturalized citizen, convicted of conspiring with ISIS down in Virginia? Why was he not denaturalized the second he got out of prison? Now, I realize that they just said that the two are not related, but they're related by concept. Like, he was let out, that guy in Virginia was let out early. Like, why is that? Why was that piece of garbage not deported and stripped of his citizenship like the second he was convicted of providing support, material support for ISIS? And why is there more news media coverage for the terror attack that we just saw on that press conference in Michigan where nobody died except for the bad guy? Why is there more media coverage for that incident than there was or is for a soldier who was murdered by a naturalized convicted criminal from Sierra Leone? This trash joined the army to get trained and then was convicted of material support for ISIS. Hey, this guy should have gotten 20 years. He ends up getting 11. He gets let out early under Joe Biden, kept his citizenship, was supposed to be on supervised release, but instead he was able to get a gun and then went and shot an ROTC event, killing an active duty lieutenant colonel. Okay? And then there's press conferences where they're not going to speculate in Michigan. Why is there not wall-to-wall coverage that the guy in Michigan at the Old Dominion University who shot an active duty service member was then beaten to death by the rest of the ROTC students? Where are these kids' parades? I mean, let's let that be the deterrent. That this guy in Michigan he drove his car to the side and he got shot up by armed security. Okay, yes, he died of a self-inflicted gun wound. But then how about the fact that a bunch of kids, these jihadis sent their covert guy to attack our military with a gun and a bunch of kids beat you to death with their bare hands? Check Raj. That's your opposition, terrorist. Wait till you see what, I don't know, 50 million gun-carrying Americans, people like me, are going to do when you try that stuff in our neighborhood. You want to die for Allah? 1/3 of this country is anxiously awaiting to oblige you. By the way, this instance is the poster child of why I am, and always have been, against this pathway to citizenship for simply serving in the U.S. military. People, let's come in the U.S. military and then give them... Nope, no. Service to this country is an honor that should be only afforded to U.S.-born citizens or at least long-time naturalized citizens, not a mechanism to let someone else become one. That should be the story, folks. Not Michigan right now. The story should be pictures of this beaten terrorist should be on the front page of every network. Force is the only deterrent against these people. Yeah, Michigan, that guy was stopped with gunfire. Well, he was stopped by a building and then gunfire. I mean, case in point, guys. If you don't think force is what it is, a dude dressed in a tactical vest and all this stuff, he, on Tuesday, waltzed into an elementary school with a gun. And the only reason he didn't shoot up that school on Tuesday, I know you probably haven't heard about this, because he was confronted by a person with a gun, because in Texas, HB 3 requires armed security for their schools. The reason this probably didn't get reported also because another FBI agent didn't want to speculate, and the dude's name was Muhani Muhammad Najim. Right, I couldn't help but notice that the stupid gun-free zone sign didn't stop him from coming onto the property either way, but the presence of an armed Texan sure did. Let's get real here, folks. Let's have a serious conversation. When are we going to start looking into some sensible actions to protect Americans? Starting with who is coming into this country and kicking people out that don't respect our culture. And I don't really care about their feelings. I mean, that's the key. The denaturalization process. It's right here. There's a mechanism. 8 U.S. Code 1451 requires a high burden of proof to remove someone's citizenship from someone who was naturalized, not born here. You can't get rid of those people. However, I think it would actually be pretty awesome to deport some of these, the Queer for Palestine people over to actual Palestine, see how they fare over there. Can't do it, though. Trust me, I looked into it. The first problem is that post-naturalization crimes do not automatically, and almost never do, result in the stripping of citizenship that they were given. But one of the specific things it does say, here's the legal jargon of it, basically you can take someone's citizenship away who was naturalized if they do something within 5 years, and maybe longer, that would have precluded them in the first place from getting citizenship. People gasped when Donald Trump, they called him racist when he came out and he was like, I'm going to ban immigrations from certain countries that have a lot of terrorists in them. And all the left went, oh, it's a Muslim bit. Well, it's not his fault that most terrorists come from Muslim countries. Not a lot of naturalized Danish citizens coming to America with a loaded pressure cooker filled with gunpowder to release at the Boston Marathon, which, by the way, the Sarnoff brothers, the Boston bombers, were in fact immigrants. One was a naturalized citizen and the other was a legal permanent resident. And they killed 3 people with a pressure cooker and injured dozens of other ones. The Austin shooter recently, a Senegalese immigrant who became a naturalized citizen. Like, what benefit was there for the United States to let that guy in? I want to know, like, who did his immigration interview? And now we got this ODU shooter who, in my book, should probably have gotten the death penalty for his last conviction 10 years ago. I don't understand. Like, Japan figured this out. Here, they said, basically, respect our local culture and laws, or we're going to kick you out of our country. They also approved the unilateral surveillance of Muslims in their country. Look, cry all you want about discrimination here, guys. I'm over it. I like people to live. I like American citizens to be alive. But what's the reality in Japan after that policy? You know how many Muslim terror attacks they had? Oh, 0. Ever. India right now is deporting its own citizens who are Muslim and scrutinizing the ones coming in, if any, if they even let them in. But not in America. In America, not only can we not get rid of these people who spew the hatred for our country, they burn our flag, they advocate for Sharia law, and they tell us from the middle of Times Square on loudspeakers that they're here to take over our country. We apparently, in America, elect them, like Ilhan Omar. She's at the top of my list for denaturalization for a number of reasons. But one of them is that she came here by our good graces because her father was a genocide-committing warlord in Somalia, and they had to flee when his administration lost power because everybody wanted to kill him. America gave her and her father asylum, and now she hates us. And instead of thanking us, she spits in our face.
Somalis are not terrorizing this nation. We are helping it thrive. Somalis have always seen themselves as a fabric of this nation.
No, they're not. In fact, they're getting convicted left and right in your district, Ilhan Omar, which is, by the way, the #1 terror recruiting capital of America. You have almost 100 Somalis to date and more under investigation that are convicted, stealing $9 billion of U.S. government money that came from us. But when confronted with any of these types of criticism, the same people like Congresswoman Ilhan Omar turns around and then says stuff like this.
I would say our country should be more fearful of white men across our country because they are actually causing most of the deaths within this country.
That's also not true at all. According to the U.S. government, in the same year she said that, which was 2018, black people, despite making up only 13% of the population, actually committed over 52% of the homicides. White people, representing 60% of the population, Ilhan, only committed less than 45% of the homicides in this country. This is the same person calling you and I Islamophobic for saying things that are plain for everyone to see. Turns out the #1 driver of Islamophobia, and I don't like that term because it implies that I'm afraid of them, which I am not, but the driving reason is the fact that they are conducting most of the terror attacks. Not speaking at school board meetings and being called a terrorist. I'm talking actual terror attacks, most clearly in the last week. I realize this is an uncomfortable conversation because we have been so conditioned to not say uncomfortable truths, even when it's based on data. And the left is, look, feel free to fact check any of my numbers. In fact, I dare you, I encourage you to. But we can't actually start solving problems till we address what the actual problem is. And the biggest avoidable problem in this country that we are facing is who we are letting in, from fiscal policy to dangers to whatever else. It's not the biggest problem, but it is the easiest avoidable problem. Yet our system refuses to address it. While Democrats also have the Department of Homeland Security shut down right now, by the way. Great job, guys. Former DHS Deputy Secretary Ken Cuccinelli and Director of Border Security and Immigration at the Heritage Foundation, Lora Ries. Ken, just bonkers.
Well, it is incredibly difficult once someone is naturalized to denaturalize them, but Congress can change that. There's nothing constitutional necessarily about that. The Congress has plenary power at how to set that up. And there are people now looking at bills to make the revocation of citizenship easier. And I want to point one out in particular, the guy who provided material support to ISIS and attempted to shoot up ODU. God bless those ROTC students. There should be an automatic revocation of citizenship. I don't care if you were born here or born somewhere else. If you are convicted of material support for foreign terrorism, I mean, that should be automatic. And it doesn't even matter where you end up, what country you end up in. You just shouldn't be in this one.
Yeah, well, I happen to think if you support terrorism, you should get the firing squad, but what do I know? The other thing, Lora, is we look at this, and Congressman Riley Moore is announcing a bill to denaturalize and deport any naturalized citizen who, quote, commits an act of terrorism, plots to commit an act of terrorism, joins a terrorist organization, or otherwise aids and abets terrorism against the American people. Great. Send them to whatever country they're supporting.
I would agree. And for a data point, about 700,000 naturalized citizens are granted naturalization each year. And there has been far too much emphasis on having high numbers each year. And what's so concerning is we should not be watering down the standards as we do with the English tests and the civics tests. And, check the box exercises for have you been part of a terrorist organization? Do you believe in communism, et cetera, et cetera? Right. We need to slow down and scrutinize the answers, the behavior, the beliefs, and the background, and take our time and get it right.
Yeah. Well, Ken, Nick Shirley was actually just going around and he was asking Muslims in some of these heavily Muslim populated areas, some of which are American citizens born here in America, that if they got into a war with a Muslim country, if we as America got into a war with a Muslim country, who they would defend. Watch this.
We would support our brothers in Iraq. That's the only way. So you wouldn't defend America? We would not defend America.
That guy was born here in America.
Yeah, so talk about difficult to deal with at that point. But the fact of the matter is, and you alluded to it, is Islam is not just a religion. It is also a governing philosophy.
Right.
And if we're going to let people in, then they need to support our governing philosophy.
Right.
And if their religion precludes them from doing that, that's their right. That's just fine. But then they don't get to come here.
Sure.
We shouldn't support people who believe, as a matter of faith, that overthrowing the U.S. government is an appropriate thing to do.
Yeah. But Lora, here's the other thing. Currently, and Ken obviously was in this role, DHS is shut down right now while this is all going. Alyssa Slotkin, who voted against this yesterday, now wants to open the DHS today. What do you think about that?
Attack in Michigan. We've had 4 terrorist attacks in the past 2 weeks. And all the way up to yesterday, she voted no. It's a true dereliction of duty, and they need to refund DHS immediately, because it's not just the terror attacks, it's TSA, the lines there. We've had tornadoes in Midwest. FEMA is on duty for that. U.S. Coast Guard, as we are fighting Iran, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Yeah, and let me just point out, if I could follow up on Lora there. Ken. I mean, it is so nakedly political that her earlier votes were to defund, but when the strike happens in her backyard and now she's politically exposed, now she votes for it. This is a nakedly, brazenly, I don't care about America, politics first exercise.
Ken, nailed it, Ken. We appreciate both of you. Lora, Ken, take care. All right, coming up, America is producing more oil than ever and exporting it around the world. So why is it that we even care about what the price of oil going through the Strait of Hormuz is? Secretary of the Interior Doug Burgum joins me live next on it.
It's our America. We conquered it. We built it. Great values like honesty and fairness. Great courage. A great nation needs a free press. Newsmax is it. 30 million Americans regularly go to Newsmax when they really need to know. They watch Newsmax TV at home. On the free Newsmax app, they go to Newsmax.com. Start today. Newsmax is real news for real people.
To a hacker, your tax return isn't just paperwork, it's a goldmine. Your social security number and bank data are their biggest payday of the year. Old antivirus software can't keep up. You need PCmatic. Our default deny technology blocks every single threat that hasn't been pre-approved. If we don't know it, we block it. Secure your return right now. Buy PCmatic antivirus and we will give you PCmatic VPN for free. American-made security for homes, businesses, and government agencies. Visit PCmatic.com.
Joining us is Dr. Drew from the Wellness Company with advice for dealing with seasonal colds and flu. Doctor?
Cold and flu season is here, and every year your loved one gets sick. Your doctor can't see you. Waiting in a crowded urgent care is brutal. This is a particularly bad cold and flu season, and it's why doctors suggest every family needs an emergency medical kit. Your medical emergency kit is filled with essential prescriptions. It includes antibiotics like generic Z-Pak to get well faster, amoxicillin for pneumonia, strep throat, ear infections, plus prescriptions for nausea and UTIs, and even ivermectin. It's easy. Just match your symptoms to the prescription in your guidebook or call the telemedicine doctor standing by. Take your medication early and feel better faster. Having a medical emergency kit is like having an urgent care in your home. No waiting to see a doctor, no lines at the pharmacy.
Smart advice. We've shared the website and discount code below to save viewers $45. Order now and your kit will be rushed to your door. Thank you, doctor.
Oh, look, the United States is now one of the world's top energy producers and a net exporter of oil, thanks to Donald Trump. We're pumping millions of barrels a day and shipping American energy across to other countries. But despite that surge in domestic production, gas prices here at home are going up because of what's going on 7,000 miles away. Why? Why are they going up? What is driving the cost of energy here at home, and who's actually benefiting from it? Secretary of the Interior Doug Burgum, sir, your department is the only one actually generates revenue from the drilling leases for this oil. Why do we care? Why don't we stop exporting and just provide for ourselves and tell the rest of the world you deal with it?
Well, Carl, first of all, as you said right away, we're so fortunate to have President Trump, the energy dominance president, who understands this. It was just 15 months ago with Biden was actually trying to reduce supply in America, strangling American energy sectors, whether it was electricity, oil and gas, doesn't matter what it was, trying to shut it down, trying to shut down our ability to both produce here and export to our friends and allies. And President Trump turned that around completely. We would be in such a world of hurt right now without President Trump's, without his leadership and without his policies around energy dominance. I mean, we've lowered the price of energy for all Americans. There's been like a $1 trillion tax break effectively because of the lower prices compared to what we had under the Biden administration. So first of all, we have a president who understands that energy security, national security, and our economic prosperity are all linked. And we also have got a president who's willing to do what other presidents haven't been able to do, which is to take action so you don't have a terrorist group that's willing to shoot 40,000 of their own people, take control of the global economy.
Sir, but I guess the same question, and you're right about all that, but I guess the same question is, why don't we just stop exporting for a little while, keep our gas here, our gas and oil here, because it only costs us, $40, $42 a barrel to pull it out of the ground, refine it, and send it off to the market. What's to stop us from locking everybody else out and just dealing with America?
Well, that is one way to think about it. But if we were to stop selling energy to our friends and allies around the world, I mean, that would definitely lead to a global economic collapse. And that would be a bad thing, because the United States, we prosper when other countries can buy our exports, and we prosper when they're making investments in our country to help improve our economy.
Yeah, for a little while, though. I mean, like this is, instead of paying $96 a barrel because the Strait of Hormuz, 7,000 miles, is all messed up, why don't we just temporarily say we're doing all of our stuff internally for a minute?
Well, I think what we're trying to do is make sure that we pull all the levers we have, which again benefits American companies and American citizens, which is increased supply. So whether it's cutting red tape, increasing our exports, doing all that stuff, that's good for American workers. It's good for the American pump. And of course, the other thing is getting rid of our reliance on Middle Eastern oil. President Trump, with his actions in Venezuela, I mean, there's the perfect thing he took in 2 hours. We took a sanctioned adversary, turned it into a strategic ally, and then again that gas and oil can flow to America, helping make things affordable here for all Americans.
We've actually taken our first things. You're actually in Tokyo right now, ironically, for the Indo-Pacific Energy Security Ministerial and Business Forum. How's that going, real quick, sir?
Well, it's going great, but we're here. We have 17 countries here. They're all interested in energy security. They want to buy. They want to have a supply, secure, reliable supplier like America. And of course, as you know, you've served in the military, Carl. You know, we've got our territories over here. We've got our partners with South Korea, Japan, Guam, American Samoa, U.S. territories. These are all countries dependent on foreign oil. We've got an opportunity to sell them American oil coming out of Alaska and ship that to them. And even Hawaii, where we have big naval installations. They're relying on foreign oil. So the focus here today is getting U.S. energy to our Pacific allies to make sure that we've got a secure position in this part of the world, just like we do in other parts of the world.
Well, I'd love to see it hold off for like 4 weeks till we brought it back down and keep it ourselves. But I understand you got some international commitments, sir. We appreciate you joining us.
Thank you, Carl.
All right. Well, the conflict in Iran is now entering day 13, and the Pentagon has moved additional warships into the Middle East and completed its most aggressive bombing campaign yet. Retired Brigadier General Blaine Holt, sir, I mean, people are, I will say, the amount of force they have put on that ground is unbelievable. How much longer do you think it's going to go?
Well, to reach our objectives, the ones that the president has laid out, probably he's right, 5, 6 weeks, 8. But the president is more concerned about reaching the objectives. That means we blast those straits open. 31 Mu is on its way. They'll take care of that.
Yep.
And then the Free Iranian people are now helping us with targeting against the regime, and that's very helpful. So we'll keep the pressure on. We want to aid and abet a revolution. Don't want to pick their leader. They do that. And that's what will get us to the other side of this. But the Straits is an emergency, and it has to get opened right now.
Yeah, I don't want to tip our hand tactically here, but there are some reports that they're sending 5,000 Marines and sailors to the Middle East right now. I don't think it's a boots on the ground, but it also is kind of like a, hey, guys, we're here, and if you keep doing this, we might walk in there.
That's right. And on that float time of about 7 days, they've got all that time to plan on how they're going to mess up the straits, keep them open, tear up all these robots, use electronic warfare, and be the deterrent and allow the Navy to do the escorts necessary. They do have to tackle the drone thing. That's been a new wrinkle in this, and we're learning very, very fast. And so I think that's going well. The Tripoli is a unique vessel. It does not have a well deck. What does that mean? Not going to be a full-up aviation effort. It's going to be a Marine effort, command and control-wise.
100%. General Blaine Holt, we appreciate it, sir.
Thank you, sir.
All right, coming up, the Senate just passed a housing affordability bill. Sounds great, but giving the government the federal government, more control over your local housing and construction and zoning? Hard pass for me. We got the director of Federal Housing Finance Agency on that from the White House next.
52 days, 3,200 miles to reach freedom. Facing typhoons, Japanese ships, submarines, and airplanes. Lack of water, food, and a visit to a large leper colony. The incredible World War II escape of Americans Damon Gauss and William Osborne.
Set sail toward fast asthma relief with Brethora.
$300 for a refill?
Don't pay that. Use Single Care. Look up your prescription, show the coupon to the pharmacist, and save.
See why more people are saving with Single Care.
Some wireless companies say that they stand for something. What exactly do they stand for, and why won't they say it out loud? Let me tell you what Patriot Mobile stands for. They stand for the lives of the unborn. They stand for the Second Amendment and the right to protect yourself and your family. They stand for our veterans and first responders who sacrifice so much for our freedom. Make the switch to Patriot Mobile today and support a company that doesn't just say they stand for something, but one that stands for the things that matter the most.
If you still have bad breath by lunchtime, your mouthwash isn't working. SmartMouth is the only mouthwash that prevents bad breath for 24 hours. This is the only mouthwash I recommend. Upgrade your mouthwash to SmartMouth today and never have bad breath again.
Hello, I'm Franklin Graham. Jesus said, come unto me, all ye who labor and are heavy laden, and I'll give you rest. Maybe you've been burdened by the sins of your life and the mistakes, and you just would love to have rest for your soul. Well, I want you to know that God loves you. He made you. He created you. And he sent his son, Jesus Christ, from heaven to this earth to take your sins. That's right. He took your sins to the cross. He died and shed his blood on a cross. And he was buried. But on the third day, God raised him to life. And if we are willing to repent, turn from our sins, tell God that we're sorry, and by faith, believe on Jesus Christ and invite him to come into our hearts, to take control of our life, God will forgive us and cleanse us. And you can have a new life, a new beginning, starting today, right now. Invite him to come into your heart. God bless you.
Power of disease.
15 million dogs and counting know Simparica Trio offers triple protection against heartworm disease, ticks and fleas, and intestinal worms, all with one monthly chew. This drug class has been associated with neurologic side effects, including seizures. Use with caution in dogs with or without a history of these disorders. Don't just protect, triple protect.
When I first decided to invest in gold, I was a bit nervous and unsure how to start. Luckily, I found Noble Gold Investments. From the very first call, they made investing easy. No pushy sales tactics, no gimmicks, and no confusing free silver offers with hidden fees. Just honest advice tailored to my needs, giving me confidence every step of the way. If you're new to gold investing or want a partner you can trust, visit noblegoldinvestments.com.
What can $34 get you these days? It could send you to your ancestral village and give you a taste of your heritage passed down through the generations. That's a big adventure for a small price.
We've seen new home purchases rise to their highest level in 5 years since the last time Donald Trump was president. We've seen the cost of rents drop for 6 months in a row. We've seen the average tax refund that's going to come to the people of North Carolina about $3,700 per family, and we see interest rates that are the lowest they've been since the last time that Donald J. Trump was president. That after the first year of President Donald Trump and congressional Republicans' leadership, we are rebuilding the American dream, and we're taking back this country for the people of this state.
Well, Vice President J.D. Vance down in Rocky Mount, North Carolina earlier this afternoon discussing the state of our economy and also public safety. But this comes as President Trump is signing 2 executive orders today, actually already did. One, bringing more community banks back into the mortgage business, more competition, lower prices. And another will help construction costs for building new homes so home builders can offer Americans more affordable options. Bill Pulte, Director of the Federal Housing Finance Agency. Sir, great to have you on. Big news, building costs and labor costs are the #1 reason. The house didn't get any more expensive, just nobody knows how to do anything anymore.
Well, you had massive inflation under Joe Biden, and I just left the Oval Office, and I'll tell you this, the president understands construction and real estate better than anyone. He just released, and he'll be releasing a video here shortly that outlines what he's going to do. And basically, these executive orders today are going to cut the red tape. They're going to really make things more affordable from a housing perspective in terms of constructing it. And hopefully we can flow that through to the consumer. That's really what we're focused on, coupled with mortgage affordability. We got to have mortgages that people could afford. Under Joe Biden, it was like 8% mortgages. Nobody could afford a home. It's crazy.
Right. Yeah, it's come down to around 6, a little bit below that even at one point. My thing is like, housing is so expensive is because the labor costs so much. I mean, it's unbelievable. People don't know how to build their own homes anymore, so they're calling everybody for everything. And you have what used to be 2 or 3 service providers are now taking 5, 6, 7, 8 contractors to do one job because people don't know basic construction. How's that going to help this?
Well, Joe Biden had so much inflation in the labor market, right, that labor became so scarce, and frankly, the economy was so bad that labor costs were out of control, to your point. And just to get something simple was very expensive. But obviously, you see earnings going up for Americans, and President Trump has lowered inflation, which has made it so that way people can earn more and they're not losing it to inflation. So that coupled with, like you said, the mortgage rates we're getting in the 5%, we're going to get the American dream back. It's going to take us a little bit of time.
Well, the Senate yesterday, I got to get your take on this. It passed this bipartisan breakthrough it's a housing bill. Now, the Senate doesn't do anything. They can't even agree on lunch, so I'm not sure how this passed. But it aims to boost housing supply and prevent Wall Street from buying up single-family homes, which I actually like, by the way, that part. But it was introduced by Tim Scott and Elizabeth Warren, who I have never agreed anything on except for oxygen. And under this well-intended bill, I think, though, I think that there's a lot of concerns here. It's going to give a lot of federal control over localized zoning. It's masking things as affordable housing with, I think this is like a pipe dream for Elizabeth Warren and a lot of the Democrats. It's going to result in more low-income housing being built in places that local communities might not want, but they might not be able to say no to that. Do you have any concerns about that, sir?
Well, I'm very confident that, frankly, this bill will help the affordability angle. So I think, generally speaking, it's very strong. I would say this, which is that we need all solutions on deck right now. You know, the average age of a homeowner, first-time homeowner, went almost to 40 years old under Joe Biden. Yeah. This is crazy. And so, you know, while people won't necessarily love each and every aspect of everything going on, I can tell you that, generally speaking, I think this is a very good legislation. I do think that the House will pass it, and hopefully it'll get to the president's desk. But I can tell you this, we are making tremendous progress on mortgage rates, and today with the executive order, I'm very confident we're going to chip away at the affordable construction aspect of it. And so stay tuned, but we definitely have our work cut out for us. There's no two ways about it.
Difficult industry. I think it's like $30 trillion of assets floating around the U.S. economy and housing right now. So if we can get the Fed on board to lower interest rates or abolish them altogether, I think we'd have a really good thing here. Sir, we appreciate it very much.
You got it. Thank you.
All right, coming up, when he's not hosting dinners for, terrorist sympathizers, he's taking political advice from a creep. That and more on Our Culture Clash.
The crisis inside Ukraine has reached a catastrophic level, with the elderly Jews pushed to the very limit.
Go inside. She's freezing cold. There's no electricity, no heat, no water. Winter is now a weapon of war, used against the elderly, the mothers, and the young children.
They've been lined up here for hours. These are precious people who are hungry. And they have nothing. If someone doesn't do something soon, a humanitarian disaster is coming. So many Jewish people who are just waiting for someone to care enough to pick up the phone.
Fears are growing that without an emergency, full-scale response, thousands will die this winter.
The International Fellowship of Christians and Jews needs your $25 gift now to help rush a winter survival food box of emergency food for elderly Jews and families in Ukraine. Today, there's a special opportunity to double your gift's impact, thanks to generous fellowship partners. Call now and your gift's impact will be doubled.
They've felt the shaking of missiles. These are people who have already endured so much suffering and disaster, taking out power, taking out water, simple water to drink. We're talking about the difference between life or death. Christian, Jew, standing shoulder to shoulder, saying, we're here to heal, we're here to help.
Your gift of only $25 helps rush a winter survival food box filled with life-saving emergency food for elderly Jews and families in Ukraine. Thanks to a special matching challenge, if you call now, your gift's impact will be doubled. Time is critical. Please give now.
For pain in multiple spots like here, here, or here, Salonpas patches stick firmly and remove comfortably once your pain is gone. Salonpas. It's good medicine.
You woke up with a sore throat and a low-grade fever. You know you are getting sick, so here's your choices. You can get sicker and miss work. Try to see a doctor this week or sit hours in a crowded waiting room at urgent care.
I have a smarter option for you. Open your medical emergency kit. Match your symptoms to doctor-recommended prescription in your booklet and take the right meds now and get well faster.
This is not a first aid kit. It's like having an urgent care in your home. It includes doctor-prescribed medications to treat over 39 medical issues like respiratory infections, strep throat, pneumonia, UTIs, and more.
No waiting to see the doctor and no standing in line at the pharmacy. It's right here.
Every home should have at least one medical emergency kit, and here's how to order.
Order online and save $45. Your kit to treat dozens of common and serious illnesses is rushed to your door. Visit urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code NEWS. That's urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code NEWS.
So we know that New York City Mayor Zoran Kwame Mamdani makes some insane choices about who he keeps in his inner circle. But this one, one of his political advisors, Morris Katz, this dude is the author of a puberty book for children, a children's book where on page 17, next to a chart of fruits and animals and that symbolize different ages of puberty, he wrote, quote, "At first we were going to use images of my penis to get this point across, but the publisher said it was inappropriate, so here we..." That's also illegal. Daily Caller reporter Ashley Brasfield and president of American Principles Project Terry Schilling. Ashley, just when you thought he couldn't get any worse.
Yeah, those political operatives say the darndest things, Carl. They really do. And this guy, he's, one of those operatives that works for Mamdani. I recognize this name from somewhere. And I was actually one of the first reporters in D.C. to report on, you may remember this name, Graham Plattner, Nazi tattoo guy.
Oh, yeah, Maine, yeah.
Yeah, and this guy actually started Graham Plattner's campaign before everybody quit on him.
Get out.
Yeah, so go figure, right? And I think he's linked to people like John Fetterman. They work for everyone. They're all a certain personality type, but it's super inappropriate, like you said. These people being able to write children's books for Americans and being able to sell thousands of them because it's his mother's publishing company. Insane.
Yeah, well, Terry, let's get to something less disgusting but equally as stupid. After the Super Bowl, we talked about how the Seahawks quarterback got taxed more than he made for actually going to the Super Bowl because of California's stupid law. Well, now the Seahawks general manager, John Schneider, says that the new millionaire tax that just passed in their home state of Washington will actually come into play when it comes to signing new players. He says it's going to sting. There's no question about it.
No, that's exactly right. It is going to sting. It already is stinging.
Hey, Terry, sorry to cut you off. Donald Trump is taking some questions real quick. We'll come right back.
No worries.
Militarily, and I think it's going very well.
Next time we come and go to
very good control. You see what's happening with the Straits. They continue to try and sabotage their own country in the Middle East, but it's been very, very strong militarily.
What's your message to voters who may be concerned about the potential for rising gas prices?
Well, I think as soon as that's over, it's going to come tumbling down along with everything else. I think it's going to be, you're going to see a very big decrease in the price of gasoline, gas, anything having to do with energy as soon as this is ended. But we had to end the nuclear threat in the Middle East and throughout the world. We will have done that.
Mr. President. Still expect unconditional surrender, and what does that mean?
Well, to me, it means very simply that we are in a position of dominance that nobody's ever seen before. And whether or not they're able to say the words or whether or not they're able to even fight. Their Navy is gone, their Air Force is gone, most of their military is gone, their big threat is gone in every way. They have no radar, they have no anti-aircraft weapons, for the most part weapons, and for indefinitely they have no way of determining what they call visibility. So just about everything is gone, and you'll see that. But today we've had some very, very big hits, very powerful hits.
Mr. President, when will the Navy start escorting tankers through the Straits?
It'll happen soon.
Mr. President.
I have, and we're discussing a couple of different things with them. Not only that, but others.
Mr. President, on the SAVE Act, if Leader Thune cannot whip up the Republican support to either nuke the filibuster, reopen the government and pass the SAVE Act, or somehow...
It's not called the SAVE Act, it's called the
Save America Act. You're right, sir. Do you think, if Leader Thune can't accomplish that, do you think the Senate needs a new leader?
Well, it's certainly a very popular thing. I don't think there's ever been a bill that's more popular than the Save America Act. It's voter ID, it's proof of citizenship, it's things that are so popular. No men and women's sports, no transgender mutilization of our children, so many different things. It's so good. No running around with the mail-in ballot nonsense that's gone on for so long that no other country does. No other country. We're going to clean up our elections. I don't think I've ever been involved in anything that's had the support of the Save America Act. So we'll see what happens.
How regularly are you speaking with Prime Minister Netanyahu? And are your objectives the same in terms of ending the war?
Well, I think they might be a little different, I guess. You know, they're a different country than we are. But he will tell you there's never been a power like the power of the United States. I built our military in my first term, continue to do so, but I built our military and rebuilt it. It was in bad shape, just like the wall, just like the border, just like everything else in our country. It was all in bad shape, but I rebuilt the military in my first term, and we're using it in this term to, you know, really for the sake of good, for the sake of peace, and for the sake of safety and good.
Do you speak daily? Do you speak with him?
I speak to him a lot.
How long now do you think the war is likely to last?
I can't tell you that. I mean, I have my own idea, but what good does it do? It'll be as long as it's necessary. They've been decimated. Their country's in bad shape. The whole thing is collapsing. If you read some of the fake news, it's like, oh, they're doing wonderfully. They're not doing wonderfully. They're doing the opposite. They're doing as bad as you can have. I would say this. I won't give you time, but we're way ahead of schedule.
And can you comment on...
Militarily, we're way ahead of schedule. I can't talk to you.
Sir, you made a post about Claudia Sheinbaum refusing your help in Mexico. What's your plan with Mexico?
Well, she should not have refused my help. I offered to get rid of the cartels in Mexico, and for some reason she doesn't want to do that. I like her very much, but she should get rid of the cartels, because the cartels are, whether we like it or not, the cartels are running Mexico. We can't have that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Gas prices, we're killing bad guys, and Mexico doesn't want our help. Coming up, MS Now putting their liberal media spin on the Trump administration's efforts to keep Americans safe, claiming that the White House has no interest in doing so. Right, were they even alive or awake during Biden's whole presidency? Next.
Go ahead, crank the volume. We got you. USPS has increased daily package processing capacity by 46% in the past 5 years. And with USPS Ground Advantage, your packages stay in our secure network, dock to door, nationwide. For full visibility, near real-time tracking, affordable pricing, for peace of mind. USPS Ground Advantage.
After graduating, I needed a website that could handle all of my important documents. GovPlus pre-filled my forms, stored everything in a secure vault, and even protected my identity.
After we got married, updating my name on my social security card, ID, and passport felt endless.
GovPlus made it so easy to apply for and manage it all in one place.
3 kids means triple the documents. With the GovPlus family plan, it's all organized and updated on time with alerts before anything's due.
GovPlus, all of life's paperwork on autopilot.
Don't kibble your dog.
Hey, Dr. Marty.
Hey, back.
What's wrong with this?
Let's check it out. It's still kibble, which means they're ultra-processed. At Dr. Marty, we freeze-dry premium meats, fruits, and vegetables, and it's available at your local pet store.
Omaha Steaks semi-annual sale is back. Save 50% site-wide on America's best steaks, chicken, burgers, and more. All backed by our 100% guarantee. Right now, you'll get 12 Omaha Steaks burgers free with your order. Visit omahasteaks.com/TV today.
The human brain is truly incredible. It's a complex network of 100 billion neurons that create cognitive functions surpassing that of supercomputers. Our brain controls our thoughts, our emotions, and our movements. Prevagen contains apoaquarin, originally discovered in jellyfish, and is designed specifically for the brain to help keep it amazing, so that we can continue to live our best life. Prevagen, for your brain.
What if you could have shades like these for a fraction of big brand prices? With Shady Rays, you can. We're an independent company, so we do things differently. We offer high-quality polarized shades for a reasonable price, and we personally replace shades that get lost or broken. So far, we've racked up over 300,000 five-star reviews. I founded Shady Rays so that we can have sunglasses that stand up to whatever life throws at us. Order now and get 20% off site-wide at shadyrays.com.
Your Florida life is calling, and we have the answer. Valencia in Florida by GL Homes. Premium 55 plus living in 5 prime Florida locations. Gorgeous new homes from the mid-300s to 2.5 million. World-class resort-style living 24/7. Huge clubhouses, on-site dining, pickleball, and more. Effortless, low-maintenance living. Valencia, your Florida life is calling. Experience more at valenciaflorida.com.
Leave it to MS Now, who stole our color scheme, to spin the most insane narrative through all these terrorist attacks in our country, somehow claiming that Donald Trump has no interest in keeping Americans safe. Watch this.
You have to wonder about the connectedness. You have to wonder about the ways in which this environment further radicalizes people. And you have to wonder fundamentally about the degree to which this White House, which has been caught completely flat-footed on a war of choice, really has the personnel in place and actually the interest in keeping Americans safe. Whether it is the way in which he talks about the collateral damage of war, doesn't give you a sense that the safety and the security of the American people is paramount.
Right, from the people who are cheering the shutdown of the DHS. Where were these people for 4 years while Biden just let 20 million people, prosecutors letting people out of jail, like the Old Dominion University shooting, let them out early. I mean, these people are insane. Brianna Lyman, elections correspondent at The Federalist. It's almost like they were Rip Van Winkle for 4 years.
Yeah, Carl, to your point, President Joe Biden let the floodgates open on that southern border. We know thousands of people on the terror watch list came into this country, not to mention the ones we didn't catch that are in this country. And you didn't see that same appetite for American safety then because it wasn't politically convenient for them.
Mm-hmm.
But now that it is to bash Donald Trump, they're all about American safety.
Right. John Cornyn now. He's vying for Trump's endorsement. Pretty anti-Trump guy. He snapped at a reporter because she called him out on political records against Trump, things like gun control and building the wall. He, of course, said none of that was true, but he also introduced a while back in 2022 the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, which was basically a soft red flag law. He also said in 2016 that Trump's border wall was stupid. I mean, how about we just not endorse John?
Yeah, there's no way to spin this. John Cornyn is part of that rhino apparatus that has been stopping President Trump both in his first term and even in this term from getting done what he wants to get done. Take the SAVE Act. Only now does Cornyn come out and say, I support, doing what needs to be done with the filibuster because he was pressured by Ken Paxton. This man is not serious about governing on behalf of MAGA. He's serious about governing on behalf of his big donors.
Yeah, well, the other thing, too, is, and I got about a minute left here, is this guy is Ken Paxton's the only real guy out there who's if they pass the Save America Act, I'll get out of the race. Cornyn's whatever.
Yeah, Ken Paxton is doing more to get the SAVE Act done than any member of Congress right now, it seems. Thune and Cornyn and Tillis, they seem to be willing to hold up the most important piece of legislation probably in the past 50 years because this is going to save America from the 20 million illegal aliens that are in this country right now from possibly getting on the voter rolls and possibly voting one day.
Yeah, no, it's shocking to me that this is where we are with elected officials, is they are this brazen that they will do whatever saves their own tail, but not what the American people put them there for. Brianna Lyman, we appreciate it very much.
Thanks, Carl.
All right, before we go, comments for Carl next.
Everybody's reporting the same stories, the same spin. You turn the channel, it's always the same. But not us. We're different. We report the real news. No spin, just the facts. Turn to us, and you won't turn back.
Tune in to Rob Schmidt tonight on Newsmax.
What if you're sick at home or traveling and can't get medical help or prescriptions? Doctors say a medical emergency kit is the answer. Joining me is Dr. Drew.
Thank you. And yes, these kits put you in charge of your health. They come with physician-prescribed medication to treat multiple common and some serious issues as well.
What are some examples?
Sure. Generic Z-Pak, amoxicillin, other essential antibiotics and antivirals that treat flu, pneumonia, strep, ear infections, sinus infections, urinary tract infections, and more.
So it is like urgent care and a pharmacy at home?
Exactly. No waiting, no pharmacy, no copays. You feel better faster and avoid serious complications.
How do you know what medicines to take?
You just match your symptoms to the doctor-written guide or schedule a quick telehealth call.
Sound advice. Order online in minutes at the website below and save $45. Thank you, doctor.
Visit urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code news.
So,
Here is a before of my stomach before Sonobello, and this is after.
This year, don't just lose weight, lose stubborn fat and sagging extra skin permanently at Sonobello.
I wanted the results of a tummy tuck, but not the downtime.
We've helped over 300,000 people transform.
Do you want that flat stomach? You go get that flat stomach.
Schedule your free, no-obligation consultation. Our flexible payment options make it easy to get started today. Call or go to sonobello.com right now. Do you have a yo-yo smile? Sometimes yellow, sometimes white. It's a constant battle between everyday stains and whitening treatments. Until now, get Smile Actives, the daily teeth whitening breakthrough that gives you a more youthful smile and helps you keep it.
At 43 years old, I don't mess around with products that waste my time. Smile Actives is easy, and it works. No gloopy trays, no messy strips. Just add a little bit on top of your toothpaste when you brush your teeth. And ta-da, white teeth.
Just add Smile Actives to your favorite toothpaste and watch the magic happen. Our patented Polyclean microfoam lifts away deep stains for a dramatically younger and whiter smile.
You have a choice. You can have those yellow teeth and just be old Nana or Pop-Pop, or you can be smiling and dazzling and full of confidence. I love my white teeth.
Scan, click, or call for your whitest smile yet. And if you order right now, we'll double your whitening free. Get an extra Smile Actives as our free gift to you, but only while supplies last.
I drink coffee every day. I started noticing that my teeth were not as bright as I like them to be, a little dingy. The Smile Active, it works. Got your boy gleaming.
100% of users saw whiter teeth. Smile Actives lifts away even the toughest stains from coffee, wine, and food, gently restoring your bright, youthful smile. Plus, it's safe for veneers, crowns, and dentures.
It's really a no-brainer if you want to whiten your teeth.
Clinically shown to brighten your teeth 5 shades whiter in just 7 days.
If you could use something so easy like Smile Actives to take yellow teeth to white teeth, why wouldn't you?
Act now. Get Smile Actives for just $24.95 and we'll double your order free. But hurry, this deal won't last. Smile Actives is guaranteed to work. Whiten your teeth or get your money back. No questions asked. Don't wait. Get Smile Actives for just $24.95 and we'll send you a second bottle absolutely free. That's free shipping, a free extra bottle. That's an incredible 58% savings. Scan the code, go to smileactives.com or call to get your beautiful whiter smile now.
So we didn't get to this yesterday, but we wanted to make sure we got it today. The other day I was talking about how Islam, actually today too, that Islam claims to be the religion of peace, but my experience hasn't been so peaceful. So I listened to a bunch of examples, and this guy said, "You're stupid." Obviously, you can see what that is, blacked out. "I bet you don't even have a confirmed kill, punk." Sorry you feel that way, bro. I have absolutely no motivation to justify my combat record to you, but it's public enough that shows you didn't do any research whatsoever. And I guarantee you, you would not say to me anything to my face, even in that weird mask you got on in your profile. Another response I got from this cat: "You're a retarded juicy monkey."
There you go.
Look, I prefer Vanilla Gorilla. That was a well-earned nickname that I got while I was in the teams. I'm mildly autistic and dyslexic, but not retarded. Thank you. All right, we also like to end things on a fun note. This time, 2 fun ones, actually. CPAC announced, that's not the one, well, that is the one. CPAC announced that I was going to be one of the speakers at the end of the month down in Dallas, and someone, whose X handle we had to bleep out. It's awesome, but says, "Don't threaten me with a good time," so I guess we're going to see this guy there. And also Sandra with probably the best advice. This was, "Watch you every night, Carl. Eat more steak." And my only advice, Sandra, is that I don't think I physically could eat more steak every day. Like, I actually might be sick.
Yeah.
I mean, Rob makes fun of me all the time because I'm walking around with a carton of this stuff.
Yeah, there's steaks all over the place in this newsroom. He's always just eating the cows. And I had a steak last night, but I don't think I can keep up with you, my man.
America.
Yeah,
let me know when we're doing heavy leg day.
We need to put beef on the flag.
Beef.
There you go. Good to see you, Carl.
Word.
Have a good weekend.